Broadcasting from Ireland, featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we are live. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deceive Reality Podcast. We're delighted to be here with the amazing Jamie Raven. Jamie, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, pal. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy to have you here. And we always start all of these shows with a very stereotypical magician question of how did you get started in magic? So,
I'll tell you the truth, because I get asked this a lot, and basically normally I make it up. So if you read, depending on what article you read or what point of my career I'm in, the truth of the matter is, when I was a kid, I loved watching magic. I loved watching magicians and clowns and everything like that when we go to parties and whatnot. But I was always in the minority. I was never really interested in how it worked. I remember vividly, like my friends would go and try and look in his box or her box, or as it were, in their props and whatnot. And my mother always tells me that she was always worried that I was a bit dim because she thought I didn't really understand what was going on. She was worried why I wasn't, as excited as all the other kids to work out how it worked. And I explained to her, like, at the time, and I remember it vividly, I was just happy. I was happy to watch it and enjoy it. And I think it's, as a performer, as a magician in particular, if that is genuinely how you feel, you're blessed, because it's really, really important, I think, to remember that feeling you're trying to pass on to others when you're performing. So when friends of mine show me tricks, or I go and watch friends of mine perform, I choose not to try to work it out. Obviously, I'm not saying I could, but I could have a guess. We've all got skill sets. We could all work it out. But I was happy just to watch it. And then what happened was, we used to go on holiday to Spain every summer. So my birthday's at the end of August. And so my parents thought it would be a good idea if we went on holiday to a part of Spain where they didn't speak English. And my brother and I learned how to speak Spanish when we were kids. And I had my first, I think it was 15 birthdays in Spain. So I was born in England when I was 0. And then 1 to 15, 16, we were in Spain. And as a result, we met Spanish people and got immersed in sort of Spanish culture. And I don't know if you know, but Spanish playing cards are different from English playing cards. So the ones that I remember, they only had 10 cards in a suit, and they were numbered 1 to 10. And they had oros, which are like gold coins. This is how I remember it. So I may be wrong. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. There were swords, which I think was espadas. Copas, which is like goblets, like wine goblets, and there was like clubs, like a baseball bat, like an ogre sort of club. And I remember a guy there, one of my dad's friends, showed us a trick, and a lot of people do it with 21 cards, where you deal it into 3 piles of 7 and you move it around this pile on that pile. Mine was the one I learned was 3 piles of 5, so it was 15. And that was one trick that I learned. And then about 3 or 4 years later, so I reckon I was about 10, 11 at the time, I can't remember, we were on holiday in India with friends of my dad's, my family, and there was a magician in a restaurant doing some close-up. And what they did, they offered to take me and my brother and the kids away and teach us some of the tricks. And then they'd sell the tricks for like $1 each or whatever, which I thought was a really cool idea. And I'm looking back on it now, when I was working close up a lot, and I've never seen anyone do it in this country. I've seen a lot of magic here in America and whatnot. No one's ever done that. But yes, we demonstrated the tricks, and then he'd take us away and we could buy them. So we basically got paid twice. We got paid to do the gig and got paid to sell the stuff. And I remember the 3 tricks. It was the Indian rope tricks. It was a rope that's, all loose and floppy, and then you snap your fingers and it stands up. There was an optical illusion one. It was 2 like crescents. One was green, one was like half moons, and whatever one you put to the left, so I don't have to do that, always looked bigger. And the third one was just a generic card packet trick. So yeah, I was about 13, 14, learned 3 tricks that night, and now I'm 37, and now I know 4 tricks. So I'm a slow learner, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, you added cartoon into us, and then you were just
absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Dan Harlan. Funny story about that, actually. So the day after I did Britain Got Talent, because I get asked this all the time about did I get permission for it and whatnot. And as with any sort of publicly released effect, you don't, some people say I reserve rights for TV and whatnot, and you can get into that argument if you want. But it was published, and I paid for the trick, and I did it. And anyway, Dan Harlan, the next day after it aired in the UK, sent me a really lovely email, and it was amazing. He was just saying, "Oh, thank you so much for showing it in." To the world. And, up until that point, I think that was probably the biggest exposure I ever got. And then wind the clock forward years later, Dan actually went on Fool Us, Penn and Teller, and did a different method. And he fooled them with the other method. So it was brilliant. So I'd like to claim full credit for improving Dan Harlan's work. Not at all. It was a masterpiece already. It's, it's brilliant.
That's perfect. We actually had a question sent in about cartoon. Do you still perform cartoon after doing it on TV, as people know the outcome? Because I hear a lot of people, like Colin Cloud has talked about that. If he does something on TV, it's kind of him killing it in his act because people know.
Yeah, Yeah, for me, magic I find is a little bit different, as opposed to sort of hardcore, not hardcore mind reading, but like Colin's obviously a mind reader. He's very, if people see it on TV, yeah, he probably has to come up with a new thing. But magic is very much sort of like going to hear your band play your favorite song. Even if you know the outcome, you still want to see it and you want to hear it. And also, if people have seen it on TV, they want to see it live. And also with cartoon, there's a different outcome every time. So it's like the way I was doing it. I used to do it at the end of my tours. Like the end, like penultimate trip towards the end, and they'd throw out a ball, and someone would choose the suit, the color, the value, and then someone else could overrule them if they wanted. So you always end up with a free choice. And I'm a patron of a number of charities now, and I do it. I still, the only time I ever really do it anymore, I've done it on that tour. So once I've done it on a tour, then yeah, it's sort of, I might bring it back a few years later if I'm going to do another tour and the same people are coming back. I've changed the material I'm doing, but I do it in hospitals with kids, and then I make them the magician, and then they always get it right, and then I play a game. There's actually a funny story. There's a routine I could do as I do routine that I do, and I don't know whose idea it is originally, but the way that I perform it is I'll do it to a kid and I'll say, we're going to play a card game. I'm warning now, I've never lost. I won't be beaten. You won't beat me. You're only here for me to kill 5 minutes and get some laughs because you're up here, but you won't win ever. And the routine is that they've got the cards, they shuffle them up and they choose half and I get what they don't want. And then we shuffle and deal them. Then in the end, we deal 4 cards into 4 piles, turn them over, and I've got the 4 kings. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's amazing. I've never lost. Look how good I am. Even though you gave me the cards, I could never possibly know. You'd never win. What have you got? And the kids dealt themselves 4 aces and they've won. And then the audience, amazing. It's great for the kid. I remember doing it once at a show. This woman comes up to you afterwards and she goes, "Oh, great show. Loved it. She goes, "But just real shame about, what happened in the first half." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "When you lost that trick for the first time." I said, "What, to the kid?" She's like, "Yeah, you lost." I was like, "Yeah, to the kid." She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You to the kid?" And she's like, "Yeah, unlucky. Maybe if you practice a bit harder, it won't happen again." I was like, "Okay, never mind. All right." So yeah, I always like all those sort of effects where it's like, the magician versus the audience. I always let the audience win because you get the credit for anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're always you've won. So just like let someone else have their moment, especially if it's a kid, unless you're in Barnsley or wherever it was.
Jumping back to, sorry, Dave, go on.
I was just saying, I always say when I do wave, like close up, whenever I get it, I always say, "That's the first time that's ever worked." And they're like,
"No, it's a great line."
They're like,
"Yeah, we
really?
do." Yeah, no, I do. I do like a Woody Aragon love cards thing. So if you're not aware of it, it's absolutely brilliant. I think he did it with 4 playing cards. You take 4 cards, you rip them in half. You've got 8 pieces. You put them together. You choose a secret piece. Then it's she loves me, not she loves me. You throw some more. You end up with a piece, and it matches the piece you sat on. But I do it with a routine of people that I get told that I look like, and we have like a Jamie Raven lookalike contest. And in the envelope, I say there's 4 pictures. Have a look, and they open up the envelope. I say, "Can you just confirm there's 4 pictures for me?" And there's 5 because one's an advert for the merchandise we're selling. And I'm like, "How did that get in there? How silly of me! Oh wow!" But then we do the trick, and everyone holds them up at the end, and I do the same thing. I was like, "You got 1,000 people." And I go, "Do you know what? That has never worked before. I'm delighted you could see it in all its glory." And half the time they're like, "Wow, I can't believe it! It's such a good trick. I can't believe it's never worked before." I was like, "Okay, mate."
Why would I do it?
It's just a great gag. I really, really love jokes where sometimes I'm the only person in the room that gets it. They're really, for me, like you say, a joke. It's like the Simpsons sort of humor. You make a joke, and obviously Simpsons is a cartoon in inverted commas. It's really written for the parents, and it's like I don't like when I do shows, like I don't swear on it because we've got little kids coming. Do you know what I mean? But if you can make jokes that the kids don't get but the parents get, I think they appreciate the fact you've taken the time to make so they can enjoy it as well, rather than just being dragged along. To see some magician with what looks like incredibly big hair now. I can't wait for the hairdressers to open. Almost as good as yours, Steve.
Yeah. My girlfriend shaved the sides, but that was it. But it was.
Oh,
it was
mate, I need that done. Oh,
it was crazier last week.
Yeah.
And just with that, when you were on Britain's Got Talent, there was that element of playing small, but then playing really big with small kind of props. And even the way you changed the Bank of Britain's Got Talent, I've been watching some of the reruns there just recently, so we could talk about it. And like even to have and just changing a 5 to a 10, I mean, everyone would be impressed, or 10 to a 50 or whatever. But the fact that you took time to change it into the kind of cartoon characters of them, and then it kind of led up to you using the cartoon deck, it was all very orchestrated that way. Very clever.
Yeah, thanks, mate. There was a lot of effort went into that. So if people watch with what the phrase I was always told is that you're only ever the tip of an iceberg in any subject. So you only ever know a little bit, and there's always so much more under the water that you're not aware of. So when I was working on it, I was working with a gentleman called Russ Stevens at the time, and we were talking about various different ideas that we could, come up with. And we came up with loads of ideas. And then, to his credit, it was his idea to do the cartoon because he'd worked with Jamie Allen, who was the first person who I believe had done it on like a camera on a screen on a cruise ship. And it's, I think, Wayne Dobson who said, if you make a mouse appear on television, it's the same as making an elephant appear in the theatre. As long as everybody can see it now, it doesn't matter what trick you do. Look at Shin Lim; he's taken over the world with a pack of playing cards. You know what I mean? So that's amazing. Now we've got screens in high def cameras, which you never used to have before. So as long as you stage it properly and you make sure everyone can see everything, that's what it is. So when we decided we can do the cartoon thing, Russ just wanted to do the cartoon, and I said to him, I don't think it's enough. I think we've got to do more stuff. It can't just have one thing. And for years, obviously working close up, I'd done a bill switch for ages, and I'd done extreme burn, which are really super quick tricks, but they're amazing. And if you've got your sleeves rolled up, they're baffling. So then a friend of mine, David Lewis, is a caricaturist, and I said to him, could you do me a favor? I want to do, it's going to be about drawing. The whole routine's about drawing. You draw me really good pictures of the judges, and then I'm going to deprecate myself. So I'll say, this is my friend's drawn these. I'm also a really talented artist, and it's just cartoon, but I've just drawn 4 X's on the top, so it looks like Britain's Got Talent. So people email me going, where'd you get that Britain's Got Talent version of cartoon? I was like, a Sharpie, just draw the X's on the top. But we, so then it was all about the drawings, and it was all about coming up with a story. And then it was, the line was the £50 note is the most valuable note in circulation. In the UK, it isn't. It's actually £100. You get them in Scotland and Jersey, but hardly anyone's ever seen them, so it makes no difference anyway. So I'll just say 50. I say, but there's one more that's more valuable. It's this, and then you do the bill switch, and everyone in the theatre could see it. It was like Dominion Theatre, 2,500 people on the biggest screen you've ever seen. It was like the whole back wall of the Dominion Theatre, and everyone could see it and react. And then the thinking behind the drawings was twofold. Number one, if you make them flattering to the judges, you'll get more airtime because they're going to show the picture of the judge next to the cartoon character. And also, I said to him, draw me in the middle, so when every time I showed the note, you saw me. I was there. And then also, I thought to myself, if it does get down to me and one other magician who they're going to put through, if I've let them keep that note and they've given it to their kid, or it's called take home magic. Like if you bend a fork, let someone keep the fork. If you're going to bend a coin, give them the coin, or take their coin obviously first if you can. Always do magic with stuff that belongs to people, or that you can then give them so they keep it. Like a number of times you do a card trick for someone, they'll put it in their wallet, and you'll see them again years later, and they'll go, "Oh, I still got this card," and it's like amazing. I'll have that back. Thanks so much. Brilliant. I'll use that later. So yeah, it was thought out. And then so it started off as just cartoon, and then it was moved on to the reason why it was Bank of Britain's Got Talent, to want to do the trick with the money, and then it was the thought of we'll do it with the drawings, and then make out my friend's a really cool artist, which he is. I'm not, but that's the gag. That was where it come to. Thanks for noticing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was always wondering where the drawings came from. I was like, who? Because they're very good. Like.
So he's a professional artist. He's a caricaturist, and he's amazing. His name's David Lewis, and I've known him. I grew worked with him on the corporate scene. So sometimes they put magicians, close-up magicians, and caricaturists or silhouette cutters or whatever. And he's amazing, as are a lot of the guys who do it. But he was, and Steve's going to disappear. There we go. Yeah. It's brilliant. And so I sent him an email and said, could you help me out? I need this. Basically, I want a banknote, a £50 note, banknote for Britain's Got Talent, but with the judges. And then when I did the final, I said to him, I need another one. Just you need to change the 50 to 250,000. That was the prize in the final. I didn't win it, so I wouldn't know. But it was just got over that. Thanks for bringing it up. It was only 5 years ago. Too soon? 6 years. But yeah, he drew them. It was amazing. Yeah. So it was great, and also since then, been able to sell them they're sort of for chat. If people want stuff for charities and stuff, we give them away and wrap them off, and then also sell them and raise money. And then it's merchandise at the shows. People can come and sign them, and they're timeless. So they're if anyone ever wants one when we come to shows, sometimes they watch the YouTube things before the videos, and then they want one, which is great, and then we use them to sell them, raise money for charities. It's cool.
Yeah, that's definitely. It's cool having like a little. It's like built-in merch for yourself.
Yeah, well, it was that, and the stickman since then. So the stickman has become like my little logo, and we sell pin badges, and he's on a lot of stuff. I'm just trying to think of what around here. No, but yeah, it was funny how things work out. Like it was never that planned. It was never intended that way. But it just sort of happened. So yeah, and Steve's back.
The wonders of internet connection.
Absolutely.
When you were coming up for the Britain's Got Talent, a lot of people get contacted to see if they want to go on it, and others just go on it themselves. How did that whole thing come about for you?
Yeah, so I was. They contacted me every year to go on it, year one, I said no thanks because I didn't know what it was. Then I watched it and then realised that Magic wasn't really given a fair shake. Basically, just you went on there to basically blow your career up because I didn't think it was fair at all. And then what I think happened was, well, a couple of things happened. By the time I did, it was Series 9, but in America, it was Series 10. So if everyone knows what's going to do well on Britain's Got Talent this year, just see what did well on America's Got Talent 6 months before, because America's Got Talent was commissioned first. And the year I did it, Matt Franco won America's Got Talent, magician. He's the first magician to win America or the UK. So I thought, well, maybe I was thinking, but then a gentleman called Russ Stevens, so my friend James Moore got to the semi-finals 2 years before me, sorry, and then Darcy Oak got to the final the year before me, and he was the first magician to get to the final. And he came, I think he came fourth or fifth or something like that. But I think by that point, Britain's Got Talent, the people had realised that a singer can't win every year or a dancer. So they need to have variety. You need to call it a variety show. And because people say to me all the time, well, Britain's Got Talent, they shouldn't have singers. The singers should go on the X Factor. And the fact is, without singers, there is no Britain's Got Talent, because most of the acts, they have to be singers. That's why Britain's Got Talent is only an audition, a semi, and a final, whereas the X Factor is 10 weeks, because there's not enough variety. There's just fewer variety acts. So they have to have them. And then I think when I did the final, I think my year, there was maybe, if there was 60 acts in the final, I think maybe 48 were singers or dancers, something like that, which isn't uncommon. But that's to give an example why there has to be singers in Britain's Got Talent. But yeah, so Russ contacted me and said, would you be interested in doing it? I said, no. And then he said, oh, why don't we meet up? I was like, yeah, right, why not? And then I remember it was about the October, the year before, 2014, decided to do it. And he phoned me and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And I didn't tell anyone, but that was it. And then we sat down and worked out a load of ideas, and we come up with about 10 or 15 things we could do for the audition, then the semi-final, then the final, and then basically plumped for what we did in the end. Yeah, here we are.
Very good. Because I think when you came on, it was a good time, because Magic had been at the beginning. I remember watching it, and every time a magician stepped on stage, it was like, oh God, don't, it's like, it's going to hurt.
Yeah. And you just felt bad for people because they're going on to do their best, and I just didn't think it was fair at all, and that's why I didn't do it, because I didn't think that you're being judged by people that aren't really qualified to judge you as a magician. Obviously, they know entertainment and they know that Simon Cowell, you can't argue with the man. Whatever you think of him is in terms of music and entertainment television, is the most successful person. One of the most successful people ever. David Walliams, immensely successful comedian, comic. You've got Alicia, who's done a million things. Amanda, obviously, if people know what your name is, no matter what you do and whatever you think of that person, they're a success, and their opinion is to be valued. So whereas they don't know the technicality of what you're doing as a magician, they know if they like you or not. They know if they like what they saw, and they know if it fooled them. And that's basically what you've got to do. And I think a lot of the time when people go on Britain's Got Talent, what they need to remember is that now it's 15 years old, 14 years old. I can't remember exactly. You have to think, how much magic have they seen over this time, right? So you have to be somewhat original. So you have to do your research. You can't just go on and do, certainly you couldn't go and do card 2 now, because I've done it, but you can't just go on and do an Omni deck and a ring flight, because I promise you they've seen it 1,000 times. And also you've got to have a look and see what Simon Cowell's seen in America as well, because that's what I did. And then, it's very difficult to be entirely original in anything, but you have to be as original as you can, because they're interested in the next someone. They're not, in you. They're not interested in you being the next Jamie Raven or the next Darcy Oak or whoever it is. They've had them. And also, you'll only ever be second best. You won't be a better me than me, no matter how hard you try. Do you know what I mean? As I won't be you. So it's just like,
challenge, accept.
Do it. Do it.
I'll be Jamie Crow and just
have it. It's yours. It's yours. And I'll be David War.
yeah, definitely. There was I find recently, if anything, there's more magicians than any other act, even singers at times at the moment.
So I still keep in contact with the people on the show, and my lawyer who I got, they give you, so when you do the show, they provide you with a lawyer, hello mate, and a psychiatrist to talk to if you want, because obviously they know it's a massive shock to some, if you're going from a life of normality, in the sense of let's say you were working in a phone shop, and then you've got a really great voice, and now all of a sudden the whole world knows who you are, and you're harassed and bombarded with stuff, it can be difficult. So they have a duty of care towards you, which they take very seriously. yeah, so the lawyer who they very kindly sort you out with, I'm still with friends now, and I've done stuff for her family and whatnot, and she helped me, and it's been amazing. But yeah, she keeps me informed. She was saying like the year after I did it, they had more magicians than magicians weren't the bottom of the list, like in terms of numbers, which was like the first time it ever happened, because normally they had to go out and find them and drag them in. And they were all asked one question. They were asked all their questions, and the most common answer they gave, they were like, "Why are you here?" They're like, "Well, we see Jamie do it, and we want to do it," because I knew most of them, but it was brilliant. It was like basically it was all my mates going to do it. So that was cool. And then yeah, since then, obviously it's done super, super well. So it's like before I did it, Darcy got to the final, James Moore got to the semi-final, and I think David Penn was the first magician to get to the semi-final. I think he was a double act. I believe her name was Karen. And that was, I think, a year before James, or maybe 2 years before. So if you think about that, like the year I did it in 2015, including me and Darcy, two of us have got in the final. And then you look at the final like last year or whatever, and there was like 7 magicians. There was more magicians in the final last year than got into it, like into like the competition, like the year I did it. So that was cool. So yeah, to play a part in that, and to have played a part in making magic, cool to mainstream, and especially on that show. Yeah, it's cool, man.
Yeah. Because as you were saying a minute ago, the originality is so important now as well, because people are going to be. There are 7 magicians on the show. Everyone can't do a prediction effect or something.
Well, exactly. And if you know about magic, obviously we know there are only so many plots and premises. So it's like if you look at music, there are so many notes. There's 14 notes in a scale. Yeah. It's how you play those and how you sing, or it's the story you tell with them. The same with magic. It doesn't matter. A card trick's a card trick, right? I'm going to ask you to choose one. I'm going to find it somehow. That's the game. How am I going to do that? Well, here's the story I'm going to tell you, and this is my story, and ... And that's where because it's like if you show me an ambitious card routine, and then I show you one, and someone else shows you one, they'll all be different. And that's important to remember. Like, don't just go on and say what other people have said just because it. I mean, I remember in the final, I did this Bill and Lemon thing, right? And it started off. I was going to do another trick entirely, but in the semi-final, I accidentally called Alicia Dixon Sir, like, because in my head I was so far ahead. Like, if you ever watched that, it was so complicated what I had going on, because I had these fish to produce. I had this block of ice, won't tell you where, but it was melting. I had this shoe thing I was doing with an extra shoe, and then I was worried about this helicopter thing. So I'm doing this, and in my head I'm like sometimes you're one ahead. In that particular routine, I was 3 ahead of what was going on. So in my head, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next. And the next question after her was to Simon. So the answer was, yes, please, sir, or yes, whatever. And she said something, and my brain just skipped forward. She just went, yes, sir. She went, sir. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry about that. So in the final, I thought, I'll address that. And then that's where, so like the Bill and Lemon thing, I just decided to do that morning because I'd done it for years and I knew I could do it and it was easy. And also I could call back to the cartoon thing. And I thought it would be cool to do a hot shot cut live in front of 15 million people, see if I really, had any balls or not. And then I decided to do it like on the spot. And I was like, man, that's worked. But that routine came about because I made a mistake in the semi-final. And then I thought, well, we'll address it. I'll give her a present. And then I watched the next year and the next year and the next year. And it all starts with, I've got a gift for you. I've got a gift for you. I've got a gift for you. And I was like, that's cool. But it's like, it's not, they only saw it like 3 months ago, mate. Do you know what I mean? Give it a chance. But hey, it's what it is. They say imitation is the highest form of flattery. So,
Based off the show, then you ended up probably doing like all the morning shows and that sort of stuff, promoting Britain's Got Talent, then tours afterwards. And we did a question from Shane coming in. Do you have any advice for combating nerves when on live TV? Night cut and stuff is
so live TV is thrilling, but also if you're not prepared for it or you go into it blindly, it can be a killer. So a couple of things. Number one, whatever you're going to do and whatever you're going to talk about, make sure you know your subject. So like, make sure you don't need to read a script. Mate, if you're going to go and talk about yourself, that's fine. You talk about yourself. If you've got a tour to promote, make sure you remember to say where people can buy tickets. I've done this before. You go on like mainstream TV and you're promoting a tour and you forget to say the name of the tour or where it's going. So as many times as you can, say the name of whatever it is you're promoting. Now, they will tell you that you can't say it beforehand, but when it's live, they can't stop you. So obviously don't take the piss because they won't have you back. But if you say to you, you've got a tour coming up and you go, yeah, it's The Illusionist, tickets at illusionist.com, blah, blah, but just throw it in. They can't stop you, right? Number two, when you're doing tricks, make sure it's nothing too slight heavy because unless you're super, super confident. You watch people do it all the time. They're shaking all over the place, which is fine. They're only shaking because it's not something they've done regularly. So you've got to be comfortable. Something you've done a million times or something that or you've rehearsed a million times. Also, remember this. Everything is filmed and played back now. So if you're going to do a trick with a duplicate where you sign a card in advance and then there's another one, you've signed it, don't, because someone will pause it and they'll expose it. And just know as well, whatever you do, there is people out there who are going to expose it. Everything. Now, it might be another magician, it might not be, it might be a member of the public. Most of the time they're wrong, some of the time they're right, but you have to nowadays just go into it knowing that lots and lots of people will say lots and lots of lovely things. But there are also going to be lots and lots of people that don't say so lovely things, and it's nothing personal. It's just that's just the way the world is right now. So, in terms of combating nerves, I'd say do what the material that you're comfortable with, that you could do with your eyes shut. I always choose to do things that aren't particularly slight heavy, unless it's something I've done a billion times, like a bill switch I can do in my sleep, or one of the routines I do all the time. But if I've written something specifically for a live spot on a show, it will be something that doesn't require too much. But that's just me, because I prefer to concentrate on the pattern element of it. When you're going through the tricks in advance with the production people, you need to find out where the cameras are and what they're using, so you can talk them through. So if I'm going to do a bill switch, don't have a camera behind me, because obviously I don't need to see what's actually happening. But they want it to be a success. So the presenters will always play along. They're always great sports. They'll always be amazing. But you just have to talk. So you'll always have a little rehearsal for a couple of minutes, but you just have to have a very clear picture in your mind of what it is you want to do, be comfortable in doing it, and be able to explain to the director and the producers there and say, right, this is the trick, this is what's going to happen. And what I always find is best is don't tell, if you're going to do an interview with a presenter, for example, don't let them in on the conversation, because you want their reaction to be genuine. People can't lie, right? Human beings do not lie well. So when you show someone a trick and they react, they will never react like that again. So if they see it in rehearsal, they're not going to. So what you do, you don't even need them there. Get someone else in and you do the trick and you say to the camera, this is where that's going to be, that's where that's going to be. You do that. But it's the same as a show, but it's just like being prepared, know your subject, and do what you're comfortable doing. Because remember, all magic is impressive. All magic is impressive. You don't have to do, you don't have to solve a Rubik's Cube with one hand, standing on your tiptoes. You know what I mean? There are other ways. We're magicians. We're smarter with our methods. So that's what I'd say. Take the pressure off yourself by as much as you can.
That's a great tip there at the end, Jimmy. Just getting someone to stand in for the presenter, because, like you said, you only get that real reaction, that visceral reaction once. Yeah.
Well, just before I come on the phone to you, I've got I had a meeting today about a pitch for a TV thing, and I always get, also, whenever you do any TV or any projects where it's filmed, ask the people for the footage so you can get it and stick it in a show reel afterwards. And I'm just looking through all these clips now of like the reactions, and every single one is the first time these people have seen the trick, and some of them are amazing, because magic's amazing. Magic is amazing. So when you show people this stuff and they're like, they say stuff, and it's like, also what's cool is what you can do as well. If you ever get any reactions or like any celebrities or whatever, film it. When you put it in your show reel, put the occasional beep in, even if they don't swear, just put a beep in somewhere, because it sounds like they've gone, what the beep? And it's like they haven't sworn at all. But it just adds a little bit to it. But yeah, it's if you like, and also when you go and do these things, always ask someone in the background to take a photo of you while you're doing it, but with the camera. So like, let's say, imagine just at the back of the room, and it's just like you've got a photographer with you. You haven't, just ask one of the runners or someone, just take a photo, so that you'll get the screen grabs of what's ever on the screen. But it's always nice, I think, to have the pictures of the cameras facing you and the team of people, and you're there and you can see it, and it's it's something I didn't do for a little while, and then I learned to do it. So that's what I'd recommend.
Great advice.
Yeah, definitely, that's good. I really like that. I remember I even I was getting a promo reel done before, and they had a big TV camera for shooting it because of the people I heard, and I made sure I got a shot of like through the camera of me standing
absolutely.
there. It's just me in front of a green screen. It could be a TV show. Nobody knows where that was.
Of course. And also for people, if you are going to go out and film stuff, you want like reactions to be genuine. It's really difficult to like stop people on the street, because if you say to like, it's psychologically. I remember I did a lot of exhibitions and trade shows way back when, and if you just stop people and go, "Oh, hi, I work for whoever company it is, but blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. Can I show you a trick based on whatever?" And it's like they're the top of their competition. They always rise to the top, and that's cool. That themed magic for those things, it does have a place, and people who do it are great. My attitude was always, well, just think about this, like the psychology of this, right? You've got these exhibitions, people are walking around, they're bored. So the last thing they want is someone to come and, sell them something they don't want to buy anyway. So I always used to say to people, hey guys, sorry to interrupt you, my name is Jamie. I have nothing to do with this industry. I'm actually a magician for my sins and I'm bored senseless. Can I show you a trick? And they go, yeah, right. And then they say, what do you do? And my job is to stop them and get them in the thing. I say, oh, no, the guys here, they just ask me to entertain people while they're walking around. And then they will say, well, what do they do? And you've engineered the conversation backwards. So you've then got them to ask you about it. And I'm like, well, I don't really know. So come on, someone on there will tell you. And then we'd always engineer it so that they'd pretend to be busy. So then I'd show them another trick. And then they'd be like, oh, hi. And they just talk like one of their own, team. And then that was it. So along that thinking, when filming like promo reels and stuff, if you go into a bar, or if you go into if you're filming it outside somewhere, and you try and stop people on the street and go, hi, I'm a magician, can I show you a trick? They're not interested. They know you are, right? But if you set up the camera and the camera's filming you and all you do, get some flash paper and just burn it and let it off, or get a reel and put a leaf on the end of it and just suck the leaf back into your hand. When people start looking and they look over and they go, hey guys, do you want to see a trick? Because they've committed first. They've given you the interest. Then you say, oh, we're filming a magic special for a TV thing. We'll have to ask you to sign a form later. But you won't be on it if you don't want to. There's no TV thing happening, but you're just interesting them. So then they're like, oh yeah, cool. When's it going to air? Oh, it's Netflix. So next year sometime. But then it's like the reverse psychology of getting them interested. So if you do want people to help with something, just stand there with your mates and film some stuff. Don't even do anything. Just have the camera, and it's like, yeah, we'll check the light, blah. Because people are interested. People are interested in cameras and ambulances, and a lot of us don't have ambulances. So that would be my best advice, actually. Get an ambulance.
I 100% agree with that. I did a coin and bottle, just like a full bottle of water, coin on the edge, rubbing it in. And I did that once to the camera, and I had a group of people around me. And I found out afterwards that I tried doing it again. A boom mic is the best.
Magnetic.
It's people come to it. Even if it's not real, just get a sweeping brush and shove something furry on.
Absolutely, yeah. Just stick a feather duster on the end of it. People are fascinated by it. I mean, because we did when we did film some stuff legit. We didn't want any help from people. They were coming over, going, "Oh, can we be in it?" It's like, "Oh, thanks very much. We don't need you today, but I will do some stuff for you afterwards. But right now, we don't need it." And then the days you do want it, if you just stand there and go up to people and go, "Hi guys, can I show you a trick?" They'll be like, "Go away, you weirdo." But if you just stand there, like you said, with a boom mic and a camera, it's like moss to a flame.
Definitely. People will come running towards you. When you were performing, getting the promo stuff at events close up and things like that, did you have any secrets of getting good photos or footage from actual events of you performing?
Yeah, so there's a couple of tricks you can do, right? Oh, if you're going to go to the trouble of paying a videographer to follow you around an event, what I always used to do, footage and show reels is the most valuable currency you can have as a magician, other than going to physically meet people and show them what you do in person, which I always used to do, if it was in London. But show reels amazing because for 1 minute, the tricks are irrelevant, because I think a lot of people go to the trouble of filming routines and whatnot. A lot of people who are booking you for events, they just want to see what you can do to their guests. And if they're smiling and laughing and happy, that's what they want.
Yeah. So
first things first, if you're going to go to the trouble of getting a videographer, if you anytime you get booked for a gig, a close-up gig, if you say, "Oh, I've got a videographer following me, we're making a promo for a TV thing," because you've got to ask for their permission first, and then you say, the videographer is going to come, is going to film me doing tricks, everybody. Is that okay? And we'll give you the footage afterwards, so you can have a record of the magic done at your event, which they're probably happy with. Take 3 suits or 4 suits, do half an hour, get changed, do another half hour, get changed, then move into another room, get changed, take people into another room, get changed again. So it looks like you've been filmed 4 different things. It looks like you've been at 4 different events when you haven't. You've only been at the one. There were always certain things with photographers, certain tricks got better reactions. So if you ever do the card in the mouth, so I'd always say to photographers, when I'm going to kick you in the foot, right? You'll be with me doing the photos. When I kick you, I look at you, I wink at you. I'm going to put my cards down. The card's going to go in. You're going to see me put the card in my mouth. It's when that person looks up, that's when you get the shot, right? So they look up and they don't see it. There are certain other things, other tricks you could do. One that was always great, firm favourite of mine, was a Ding Dong by Al Goshman. Do you know what that is? Do I have to explain what that is?
Yeah, I think the sponge.
It's yes. So what you do is you say to the photographer, "I'm going to do this trick," and I used to do it all the time to people, but I didn't want photos of it on my website. I'd say basically what you do, the shot, you're going to do it, but you're not going to get their hand in the shot, because when they open their hand and they see it, that's the money shot. Excuse the delicious pun. Do that, because the other thing that a mate of mine used to do is I'm not going to say who it is, but if you want good reactions for photos, you'd like whisper in someone's ear, and you just say the most obscene thing. Now, I'm not saying to do this, right? I never did this, but if you really want a good reaction to a photo, you say to someone in their ear, you walk up to them and you just say something horribly offensive, and then they go, and it's like bang. Thanks, mate. See you. I'm only joking. See you later. Bye. But that's I'd say that's definitely a distant third on the list. I'd say basically, yeah, there are certain tricks that you do that always get good reactions. So it's like close up for me. Like the best ones are always extreme burn. Like in terms of like reactions, like the shock factor of when people look up from the card in the mouth, and then Al Goshman's greatest work, that was always a belter, because people would, because I used to steal people's watches while I did that as well. So you take that and you do the whole thing, and you get the reaction, then you get the reaction of them getting their watch back. If you take someone's watch, it's really cool, especially when people say all the time, they go, "Oh, can you do that one where you steal someone's watch?" And I go, "Not now, obviously not now. Now you've told everyone, but that's exactly when I'm going to go for it, because now they think it's over, they think they've relaxed." So like a mate of mine, Keith the Thief, was telling me, when you go and take someone's watch, I only used to take like leather strap watches of very elderly people because they wouldn't notice they were coming off. But every now and then, you get caught. And what happens is I'd just say everyone, and I'd hold their wrist. I go, "Can I just point out, I was trying to steal his watch or her watch," and everyone laughs. And then you immediately go for it again because I think it's over. So now I am gonna get it. I won't get caught twice. You take it off, and then at the end you do whatever routine you do, and you go bang bang. There's your watch. Then you put their watch back on them, and if it's a leather strap one, what you do is you put it back on, but you don't put the pin in. You just put the strap back inside the little like belt buckle bit of the watch, and then later on you literally just slide it off them again. I mean, I was working with Etienne Pradier, legend. I remember he did it on John Cleese. He stole his watch 3 or 4 times, like in the space of like 5 minutes. And then John Cleese gave this really good quote. Then it was something like, "You're beginning to annoy me," or something like that, after he stole his watch the 5th time. But Etienne's a master at it, and it's like you can do it with anything. Because like, Etienne will do it with like a coin and a bit of paper and a pen, and he'll go, "Right, I'm going to take the coin with this," and just uttering utter nonsense, and like it works for him because he's super smart. But he plays sometimes his character of like a bumbling French idiot, which he's not at all. He's one of the sharpest tools you'll ever meet, but he can get away with it because of that. He does this thing with a fork, and he goes, "Oh, you seen Uri Geller bend the spoon?" And they go, "Yeah." He goes, "I call this bending the knife." And it's a fork, right? And they go, "That's not a knife, that's a fork." He goes, "Yeah, I know, but I'm French. If I say that, it sounds like I'm swearing in it." And it's like, he's just brilliant. He's just brilliant. And I have to thank him because Etienne's the reason. So I did a party for Prince Charles at St James's Palace, and that comes through Etienne, because Etienne many years ago got close with one of the gentlemen that organises all the events for like, the royal family. So Etienne's the one. If you ever see people posting photos performing for Prince Charles in particular, or the royal, it's usually Etienne's hooked them up. So yeah, he's my man. Big thanks, Etienne.
Very cool.
Yeah, those are the sort of photos you want. There's some great tips. That's the real like sleight of hand and magic. It's like getting how to get the perfect shot coming in from people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, and it's just a numbers game, because if you do it, I mean, ideally, if you're doing a table of 10, you want 10 people, losing their shit and going crazy. But the odds of you getting 10 people laughing at the same time, all with their eyes open, and someone not eating, is always difficult. But that's why I say to the waiters as well, not waiters, sorry, the photographers, when you're doing the photos, take some of the group as a whole, but also just take the reactions of people, and always make sure you're in the photo. So if he's doing if you're going to do a trick for 2 people, make sure you stand in the middle of them. So, and that's the other thing. If you're going to do a trick for like famous people, and there's 2 of them at a table, stand in the middle of them, because then you don't even have to include them. You can do a trick on some of the other side of the table, but if you stand in between them, remember, you don't need to look at them. You need to look at the camera, because if I'm looking at someone to my right, it's not a great photo. If I'm looking forward, it is a great photo, because the most important thing is you look good, and then everyone else looks good. But they're just things you learn, like by doing it. It's like if I do a fork bend, I always do it in front of someone's face. That's another one, actually, a fork bend. When the prongs go, if you say to the photographer, "I'm going to be doing this in front of their face, and I'm going to get them to look at the camera," and when you do it, you get the reaction of, you see the fork, and you see them go, and they're reacting, or if I'd bend it, pre-bend it, and then they'd rub it, and I, did move. I slowly open my hand. It looks like it's bending up. But I get them to point down the lens of the camera, so they're pointing at the camera, and as they're doing it, you've got them and the fork and their face in the shot. So yeah, it is an art. And yeah, when you just by doing a couple of things, you're improving your chances, because there's like the number of times I get photos from photographers and they're all rubbish, in the sense of like they're good photos, but I can't use any of them because I've got my eyes shut or I'm not looking or whatever. Other thing as well, remember it is someone's craft. So if it's a photographer or a videographer, when you see them at the gig, if you say, "Hi, I'm Jamie," or whoever, I'm the magician. If you want, it always gets great reactions because they want good photos, and you're going to help them get good photos and good video. And you say, right, these are certain tricks I'm going to do. That you just talk to them for 5 minutes about what you're going to do. You don't explain any methods or anything, but you just explain the tricks and where it's best for them to shoot it from. And then you say, do you have a card? Because I'll buy, if you have any photos of me with permission of whoever's booked them, I'd love to buy them off you. And then 9 times out of 10, they'll say, no, it's all right. I'll just send you them because I've already been paid. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, it's like 10 quid a photo or something. But if they're good photos, they're worth it. Yeah. They're worth it. They're worth hundreds of pounds each, because you can't buy them. Like you need someone to capture that moment. And remember as well, it's their job. So it's like, don't be emailing them 25 times going, can I have the photos? Can I have the photos? Offer them first, because 9 times out of 10, they'll give them to you for free. And then they might say to you one day, well, I'll give you the photos. Can you come and do something for me? And you're like, well, yeah, fair's fair. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, or you can say, no, do what you want. It's like, if you want the photos, they're good. Photos and videos, mate. They're invaluable. They're gold.
It's definitely where the industry works. You know what I mean? It is very much, you rub my back, I'll rub yours kind of thing. Especially with that kind of thing. If you're in the corporate sector and you're meeting the same photographers, videographers,
and
MCs.
remember, you're working in the same room as they are. So that means they're going to go to a gig one day and they're going to be asked for a magician. Because the other thing you can say to the people, which I always did, is say, have you got a card? Because I get asked all the time for photographers, and if I'm, if you're free and you'd like it, I can pass them your way. And they're like, yeah, because if you're, sometimes I think people think we're just magicians. So we only give work to other magicians, but it's not the case. There's caterers and there's photographers and videographers and florists and table dressers and themers and whatnot. I don't even know if theme is a word, but people who put props in rooms and that.
Especially if you've got a photographer that you've done a few gigs with, and they always get good shots of you. It's beneficial for you to recommend them for your next gig, because they'll get more good shots of you.
Exactly, and you can say to the people, "This is the photographer, and this is his work." Like when we did the gig before, because and then also remember, you can then start making money on it, because a lot of people, when they get inquiries, they just say, "Oh, we need a magician for this party," and they go, "Yeah, it's a couple of hours. I charge X amount of money." And it's like, what you should be saying is, "Have you ever booked any magicians before? Can I ask what entertainment you've had previously?" Because when they say, "Oh, we had Ed Sheeran last year," they've got money. So you can start asking, don't be shy. And also if they say, yeah, how many guests are there? And they go, we've got 1,000 guests. And they think, oh, well, one magician will do. And then you explain that, well, actually in a couple of hours, I can probably get round. Well, I was lazy, so like 3 people, but most good ones can get around like 50, 100. And then if you say to them, look, we can get you, look, like normally it'll be like, I'll make this up now. Let's say I'd normally charge like £750 or whatever. I can get, if you need, like, there's 1,000 people, so you need 10, but I can get you a discount and I can get them all for like 500 each, and then you pay each of them 350. And then then you can say, well, have you thought about any other entertainment? Because you can also have like caricaturists and whatnot, and then you can start like a little agency empire. That's what we did, me and my friend Paul.
Nice.
Good,
yeah. It's great advice. I remember I got booked for an hour, and I showed up to the gig early on before I asked any questions, and there was 23 tables.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to set people's. This is the thing as well. People are only disappointed when they feel they've been shortchanged, right? And they feel they've been shortchanged if whatever they pay for, whatever it is, if it's rubbish, and also if it doesn't do what they thought it was going to do. So if someone books you for an hour, I mean, I've had it before. Like when there's like a guy called me and said, "Oh, can you come and do like 3 hours?" I was like, "Yeah, of course. How many people are there?" And he goes, "Oh, there's 7." And it was like, "Well, that's not going to work." So what will be better is if we do like, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes of like a show, and then I'll do it and everyone watches it together. And then if you want, we could do like a workshop or something, and we can, I could maybe teach you some bits or whatever. Because obviously if you turn up for 3 hours and there's 7 people there close up, it ain't happening. I mean, I don't care who you are. I mean, Jay Sankey and Michael Amar would struggle, do you know what I mean? And they both know 1,000 tricks with a lighter, do you know what I mean? I do not. And on the same side, yeah, it's like when you get if you get booked for 1,000 people and there's 100 tables. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a magician to do 10 tables during the course of a meal. Like you can spend like decent time. Like I know friends of mine had so we had different theories. Like I'd do 5 or 6 or 7 minutes at each one. So I do 3 or 4 tricks at a table because I like to go, say hello, do the whole lot, and then bounce table. And then other friends of mine would literally get up and they do a trick and they do 10 tables once. Then they go back and do their second trick. Then they go back and do their third trick. And it's whatever works for you. But we can all walk around with a fire wallet and claim we've done 1,000 tables. You know what I mean? Just walk around the room. But in reality, if you client spending money or whatever, they expect, they have an expectation, and it's your job to set that correctly. They might be right, they might be wrong, and if they're wrong, you've got to set them in advance and let them know. Piece of advice there.
It's always good as well to do a trick that you leave something at the table, so you know that if you glance past, you've done that table. Like pressure, for example, you the phone and the balloon. So now there's a burst balloon on the table, so when you walk past, you're like, okay, I've been there. Move on.
Yeah. Or you could just give them your business cards at the end, and they'll just throw them on the floor. Then the cards by the table on the floor. They always because I always used to draw little diagrams of rooms. I like sometimes they got table numbers on them, and if there was like if there's 1,000 tables and there's 10 of you there, it's not difficult to remember you're doing numbers 90 to 99. You know what I mean? But if it's like obscure thing and it's like, well, you're there and you're there, or there's like sometimes all of your lot will be eating, so I'll go and do mine and you'll come and help me, and then I'll come and do some of yours later. We've all got a pack of playing cards, a deck. I used to draw the table plan on the back of the pack, and then I just write down the table numbers I've been to, and if they didn't have table numbers, I just write down like where they were, because if you write down the people move around, so it's like you quite often you do a table, you go to another table, and the dude see the 3 tricks you got, so you have to make your excuse and go and do someone else. But yeah, it's always handy. Yeah. But business cards as well is a little tip that people, I think people, what I used to find, they're very apprehensive about giving out business cards. Well, I'll only give them out if people ask. And my argument to that is, well, magic's amazing, right? So imagine you've done something for someone, and let's say they're 42 years old, right? They're not going to think in 8 years' time I'll be 50 and I want to book this magician because that's amazing. That's not how brains work. But if you do a trick for them and they love it and they've got your card and they take it, they might remember it, and then they might, or they follow you on Instagram or Twitter nowadays. Like when I was doing this, social media wasn't a thing like when I first started doing this. So now that's amazing. So like you got all your social media details on there. And I always used to do a gag. So at the end of I'd give cards to everyone. So when I finished close up, if I was doing let's say because I'd normally do the drinks reception first, then go like round the tables afterwards. So I'd have like 2 different sets of stuff, and the way I used to do it was by the time. So for the first half hour, I'd do 3 or 4 tricks, and the next half hour I'd do another 3. So that way I'd always know what I'd shown people because I knew what time it was. So sometimes people can't remember what they've done for people or to guests or whatever. That's how I did it. But what I do, you don't know if you're going to see those people at the tables later. So I do my whole bit, and then at the end, okay, guys, if you enjoyed that, thanks so much. I have a card. Please take one. If you didn't enjoy it, take one anyway and give it to someone that you don't like. And then we all win. Everyone's happy. Think about it. It's good. And then, so I give them a card, and then I go to the table later. And I do the same thing. I just count out 10 cards. And so if there's 10 on the table, I'd have in my pocket 10. I'd count them out in advance. So I'd say, guys, it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed that, whatever gags I'm saying at the time. So I'd have a card. Please take one because you never know. And if you didn't like it, you're wrong. But take one anyway and give it to someone that you don't like. And then I know some of you already got them already, but I've heard you ain't got many friends. So, give them away. And then what you do is you give them to one person and just say to them, can you hand them out for me? Or just, can you pass them around? And then they then pass them around the table. Yes, a lot of people will not take them. They'll leave them on the table later. That's fine. Don't be too proud. Go and pick them up. Don't leave them there and then go and buy more. People will take them, right? Yeah. By and large, because if you think about this, right, if you do close up and there's, 100 people you see there, the odds of you getting a gig out of that, giving 100 people a card, are pretty high. So if you can generate 1 gig from every gig you do, you never need to worry about work again because you're always working. So that was always my thinking. And it's like a number of times I go and do gigs with people, and a number of times I get booked because I just happen to be placed well on Google, because way back when I used to pay a lot for Google AdWords. And they say, oh, we saw this magician at this thing, but I can't remember who he was, but we Googled you and you saw your show reel and that was amazing. I thought, great and brilliant. But I want people to remember me. So I want them to have it. And here's a story. I was doing a thing once, and a guy's come and he's in like a dinner suit, like a black tie thing. And he says, are you a magician? I said, yeah, I'm here. And I was there as a guest, right? And he goes, oh, do you know what? And this is before I did Bridge or Tanner or anything. And he goes, I think I remember you. I said, do you know what? I think the last time I wore this suit, you gave me your business card. And what I used to do, I used to change my card every year. So I could tell when I'd met someone by looking at the card. And also when you meet people as well, if you give them a card, make a note. And just what I always do is I'd look at them and say, like, just a feature about them that I remember. Because people will phone you up all the time and go, hi, Jamie, it's Dave. We met at such and such. You might have met 10 Daves that day. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. But when you meet them in person, you remember. Anyway, he opens his top pocket and he pulls out my card. And I could tell it was the card I had from like 5 years ago. And I said, do you know what? I don't know what I'm more impressed with. I said, the fact that you've kept that card all this time, or the fact you haven't had that suit dry cleaned in 5 years because the card was still intact. He was like, no, I put on some weight and then I lost the weight again. I was like, okay, buddy. You're looking good for it.
It's so good to hear this advice, man, because I mean, this is what magicians talk about. You know, professional magicians talk about this stuff all the time when we chat to, you know, our friends and stuff. But I mean, it's so much show business, and I think so many magicians starting off are like, okay, I need 10 different, you know, ambitious card type moves or whatever it might be.
Yeah, man.
And,
well,
so much of it is the business side of it. I mean, especially if you want to be professional.
That's what you said. Yeah, it's show business, and the business it's show in small letters, business in big letters, because it doesn't matter how good you are. If no one knows who you are, you're never going to do anything. You're never going to do any work. So it's like you've got people need to know who you are. So you need to work out how, number one, how to get gigs in the first place, which is basically show people stuff that makes them go, I have to have that. So basically, what do people want to see? They want to see reactions to people. You don't need to have all your tricks on. It's great if you've got a couple on there. But I have never put any whole routines on until Britain's Got Talent, obviously, like the audition and stuff. I can't control that because that's someone else to put that on there. But if it was down to me, I wouldn't have any entire routines anywhere. I never do, because they're not important. What's important is people see how people are reacting and then they go, right, I want that. And then the only way they can get it is by getting you there to do it, to replicate it. So yeah, that's why, you know, show reels are so important. And and that's why like residencies and stuff. Like I remember I was chatting to a guy and he was saying about getting residencies and stuff. Like way back when I used to do a few, and I was lucky because I had a friend who's like owned a restaurant and I did some stuff there. And then I met a few other people and they sort of put me up. But he was saying to me, how do I go about getting a residency? And I was like, mate, I don't know, because I've never, you know, had to go and get one. But if I was going to go and get one, these are my thoughts, right? What I'd do is I'd find somewhere that's busy, somewhere that can actually afford it. Like, so even if it's like, because obviously for residency, you're going to get paid a lot less than you would a normal gig, but it gives you a chance to go and work on new stuff, and you get to meet people, and you get to give out your cards all the time. And, you know, especially if you're in an area, you just get known in that area. And it's a long game. Like people might, you know, you might do stuff for a family, like 2 daughters, and then 5 years later, one's getting married, and then you go and do their wedding sort of thing. That's the sort of vibe I was going for. But what I would do is I'd call up the restaurant, or I'd go there with I'd book a table, and I'd go there with my friends, and I'd just do some tricks for them, and I'd get them to react like over the top crazy. But then what you do is you're on one table with your friends, and then another group of your friends or another table, you go over to the second group, you do some tricks, and you get one of them to go to the manager and then go, oh, that magician was amazing. I was like, is he in here often? And they're like, what magician? And then that's it. Then at the end, you leave and you go, guys, I'm really sorry. I hope you don't mind. I was, my name's Jamie. I'm a magician. There was, I knew one of the guys there, and he asked me if I could do some tricks. I hope you don't mind me doing that. Obviously, he's heard them losing their shit. So obviously, he's interested. And then you say, I don't know if you're interested, but on there are certain, like, I don't know what days are no good for restaurants. So let's say a Thursday or a Wednesday or something. Fridays and Saturdays, I'm sure they're heaving, but maybe on days where you're less busy or when the customers have time to wait, I could come and show you what I do. For one day, I'll do it for free. I'll come in and I'll entertain it. Once they've made their orders and stuff, I'll bounce around and I'll do it for free for a day, like for a couple of hours. And then if you like it, we can have a chat. And then I never did that, but that was just how I thought about, you know, how you could go about doing it. You don't have to do the first bit where you know, get your mates to pretend and all that. And then what you do though, if they do book you, if they do have you for that freebie thing, you get your mates to go along to that, a different group, and then afterwards they phone the restaurant up. Okay, that magician was amazing. Can you tell me when he'll be back? And that's it.
Nice.
I should write a book.
And then the place is dead.
And what's your name? Mrs. Raven, Mr. Raven. Oh yeah, they were his parents. Okay, fine, come on in.
Definitely. So we have a segment on the show that I'm coming up now, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is basically we ask our guests to show that we're all mortals of a performance story that maybe started off good, went bad, even ugly, What is the first story that comes to mind for you?
Okay, so for me, I'm quite. I'm very, very anal when it comes to practicing and when it comes to having out and get out. So for every trick I ever do, I have a plan B always. And I know I'm in the vast minority. So when I do a theatre thing, if people are paying to come to the theatre to watch me do a show, if something goes wrong, there is a backup. The audience, hopefully, well, they should not know anything's gone wrong, right? And I think is it Murphy's law? If you do anything for long enough, eventually everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So you need to be able to get out of trouble if you're ever in it, and that's fine. So for every trick that I ever do, I have an out, right? However, right, I cannot control other human beings, and I remember that just for me, there's two stories I'll tell you. This one did happen to me. The next one didn't happen to me. I was doing the so I've done a bill in lemon, orange, kiwi, whatever for donkey's years, and I was doing this particular version was a ring in a walnut, in an egg, in an orange, right? And I've got the orange on the table, and there's a knife, and I've got the knife, and I said to the person, because they were to the side of me, because they kept moving to the wrong side, and there was a bit of jokes about that. But anyway, they were the wrong side, so I need them to pass me the knife. And I said, oh, very, very carefully, could you please hold the handle and pass me the knife? And inexplicably, they just dragged it across my fingers, right? They just dragged this knife across my fingers, and all four of them just split open and just started bleeding. And I looked at it and I was like, wow. And there was a napkin on the table because when the orange spills everywhere, and I picked it up and I wrapped it around my hand, and it's just gone, like, it's gone red, like instantly. And I was like, oh, well, that's never happened before. And that got a laugh because everyone knew I was like genuinely bleeding. Anyway, we cut open the orange, crack the egg with the wrong hand, which I can't do anyway. I nearly missed the bowl. Get the walnut out, just crack the walnut. I was like, there's your coin. Thanks very much. See you later. Bottle ring or whatever it was. Go. And then I said, I've always, when I'm doing shows, I've got a mic on. I always have the thing so I can turn the mic off on my back. I never have it locked because I don't want to be in that position. And I said to the guys, because I was supposed to do a close-up section in the next bit, I was like, I can't do this. Basically, I'm going to need another towel. And I had some new skin, which is like, because when I used to bend forks, I occasionally put the prongs, my thumb through the prongs, so my thumbs would bleed a lot. And then they sort of, new skin is like super glue for your fingers. We didn't have any new skin, but we did have super glue. So I was like, great, go and get some of that. And then we were talking. So what we did was, if anything did go wrong in the show, everything's built in blocks. So you just move from block 2 to block 5. We may come back to it later. We might not. There was no way I was going into the audience to do both because I didn't have my hand. Anyway, the next part was like a love cards thing, the ripping up the Woody Harrigan thing. So I could do that without doing anything. So I could just explain it to everybody while I got this thing. And then we put the super glue on my fingers, and then it dried in the interval. And then I carried on second half with super glue on my fingers. So in terms of the tricks, I've always got methods for the tricks. But yeah, I was not expecting someone to. I mean, literally, I watched it in slow motion. Like literally, they just try and get. They sort of. Yeah, I'll use my phone. It was literally like this. It was like. I mean, to this day, I mean, my hand was on the table, and they just pulled it and dragged it across my hand. I was like, "What are you doing?" But that's happened to me
at that stage.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, they paid for a ticket." Do you know what I mean? I was like, looking at it, yeah. And my favourite story ever is from my one of my closest friends in Magic, and he won't mind me saying this, so I'll tell you his name. So his name's Paul Martin, and Paul is actually my next door neighbour currently, but he's actually sadly moving in a few days. But Paul and I set up an agency years ago called A Magic Place, and whenever if I was ever booked, I'd always recommend him and vice versa. And he was the first person I ever did magic with that I really got on with, because we did it in the same way. Like, it was all about having a laugh with people, and then the magic sort of just is. The magic just happens. You're just having a laugh with everyone, and it's by the time. And I said to him, we were doing some stuff on. Sometimes you do a thing on the River Thames, like you get on a boat, and a company would hire the boat, and you go up and down the Thames. I hate it because I don't like bouncing around on the water. I didn't like it at all. But the gag I used to do, I used to say to a woman, it's an old gag, or a guy, so can I buy you a ring? And you take the ring and you pretend to drop it over the edge, and you go, don't worry, no, that was actually a 10p coin. And then you open your hand, and in your hand is a 10p coin. So you make out like you've dropped the ring, but of course you've got 2 10p coins. The ring's gone in this hand. You drop one of the coins. It's all right, I'll fix it. And then you bring the ring back. When I was doing it on stage, I'd say to someone, "Oh, I've got your ring." I'd say, "Oh, it's brilliant." I'd fuck around and say, "Don't worry about it. I promise you it's completely safe." And then I'd accidentally throw it. And you hear it go ding, 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 ding across the floor. I said, "Don't worry. That was a 20p coin." And I'd open my hand, and there'd be a 20p coin. And then I'd do the thing again. I said to Paul, "Right, you've got to do this joke. It's hilarious." He goes, "No problem." So he goes to this lady. He's in this like old stately home, And he says, "Oh, have you got a ring?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he takes the ring and he goes to throw it across the room, right? And he throws it, bang, straight through this 18th century oil painting, right? Gone straight into the canvas, right? Just slit it straight down the middle. He's like, "Oh, wow. This is not the worst thing that happened at this gig," right? So he's there and he's like, "Oh, wow." Says, "Don't worry, that was only an illusion. Your ring's really here." And then he ran away. It's one of these things where there's like 1,000 people, so you can sort of disappear into the toilets for an hour. Anyway, I know you were saying about a card on ceiling. This is his one, right? So he's doing card on ceiling, but the ceiling is high, like super high. So he's like, "Right, I'll give it a go. 1, 2, 3." And he's thrown the cards up and they've spun. It's hit the ceiling. Amazing. The card's stuck. And then it's like hit a beam. And rather than coming straight down, it's sort of gone off at like this angle. And it's now flying about 100 meters in the other direction. There's this elderly gentleman just standing there, and this card just goes smack. Breaks his glasses in half, the glasses fall off, and his nose just starts bleeding. And he's just standing there, and Paul's like, "Oh," I won't say what he said. And he just gets down and he like tries to escape because he's already broken the painting, and now he's taking this guy's face off. Anyway, we're there, and I'm like, "Oh, we've got to go." So we move around, and we literally get to the door, and he's like turning on. I think got away with it. And as we turn out the door, the guy's wife is standing there, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I was just coming to find you." Not at all. We were running, mate. We were running fast. But yeah, so the knife one happened to me. The coin and the card on ceiling, that was Paul Martin. If you want to check him out, your magical host. Oh, by the way, we've done a great bank night routine we've released called "Yours, Mine, and the Mystery." I thought I'd drop that in there. I'm not quite sure where you can buy it anymore. But yeah, Paul says it on his Facebook. It's brilliant. So a bank night thing that I did. I always do it every show, and it's like, if anyone's interested, I'm not trying to sell it now. I'll just tell you why I like it so much. It's 3 envelopes, and the gag is there's one says mine in big letters, one says yours in small letters, and there's a question mark. And the gag is mine is bigger than yours, so you can play it however you want with whoever you want. But the beauty of it is that with a lot of bank nights, it's usually, say, there's 6 envelopes. You can choose 5. They're all empty. I keep 1, and I've won the money. Hilarious. You know, the magician always wins. And I was saying to you earlier about that card thing. I always like the audience to win. So, well, I like them to think they've won for a bit. So I would say, "Oh, we're going to play for £5 or $5, whatever country you're in." I say, "You will win. And when you win, everyone in this room is going to give you a huge round of applause, and whatever noise they make, all that's sort of acceptable, I guess. Which one do you want?" And they'll say, "I want mine." "Do you want to change your mind?" "No, you don't." "No problem." You open the envelope, mine, and you show it. There's just £5 inside it. The rest of the envelope is empty, apparently. But it looks empty. You say, "But if you'd have chosen the other one, in this one, there was £50. So you could have won 50 because they can keep whatever's in the envelope they don't choose. And in this last one is $1,000 or a check for 25 grand signed by the boss, whoever it was." But it's progressive revelations that get more and more impressive. But also they do win. So they do win the £5. I'll use that as a callback later. Go, for my next trick, I need to borrow a £5 note. You're going to get the money back anyway. If you want to give it to them, you can. Yeah. But there's I loved it, and it kills 7 minutes, and it's like that was the thing that me and Paul first started working on when we started, because I get asked a lot about how do you move from just doing close-up to doing stage stuff or like, you know, stand-up stuff. Yeah. And the easiest way to do it is to do, for me, I found, was that you do, let's say you do a close-up gig and you charge, I don't know, I'll make it out like 500 quid, whatever you're going to charge. And then you say, "Look, I'll go around the drinks and I'll go to the tables during the courses. And then if you want, at the end of the meal, before the coffees or during the coffees, for like 10 minutes, I could do a bit that everybody watches together. And for that, I charge another 250 quid or whatever you charge. That way you get paid another 50%. And then you can work on stuff. And that routine is like 7 minutes. And literally it's 3 envelopes in your pocket. You don't get anything. All you got to remember is what end of them. They're double-ended envelopes. So you open one side, they've all got 5 in one side. They've all got other prizes in the other. You just got to remember which has what in it and which envelope. The ball has a big red cross. I mean, it's massive on the side not to open. It's like, because he's like, the number of times he does it and then closes, spins it around, opens the other side. He doesn't. I'm winding him up. He never does that. But yeah, it's a great routine. It was if anyone is looking to move into stand-up performing as well, that was the way that I started doing it. Because then you can work on, like, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And it's like, I think stand-up stuff's the same as close-up. It's like, I think you should master 5 or 6 tricks, them before you learn any more, rather than learning 10 that are average. Like, and same with stand-up. It's like, learn 3 or 4 things, and also just find what works, because the hardest part of magic is learning stuff, and then you realize it's not for you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we've all done it. We've all worked on stuff that we've seen other people do or taken inspiration from. You've tried it and it just doesn't work. And then there's other stuff that does work for you, and there's no rhyme nor reason to it. It's just the way we are. There's certain jokes you'll tell in a certain way that will get a laugh. Someone else will say exactly the same words and it won't. So yeah, it's just, yeah.
I remember.
Another tip from the book I've not written yet.
A nice story. Just Dave was doing a show in Cork from, and he was like, "Do you want to just do a spot in the show?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll figure out something on the way down. Don't worry about it." So we got down, and he was like, "Yeah, do your card stab. It always gets a good reaction, Malini style." So I was like, "Yeah, cool, perfect." So I had a penknife. We opened it out, and I was like, "Yeah, that'll work." I did a quick run through before everyone came in, and we're on stage. I pushed it down so hard that the penknife snapped shut in my hand. So for a split second, I didn't want to open my hand because I was like, I'm pretty sure it's after taking off my thumb. So I look at the guy. The guy looks at me. I look at the audience, and I kind of look at my hand, and I can see like a little bit of blood, but not gushing or anything. And I just came up and I just went like this, just really quickly, and it was like, I'm good. I'm good.
Brilliant. But you know what? That if you want to play on that, that's giving you now some material like forever. So basically, you can write that into the show, because that happens sometimes. So like basically, if you had like a thumb tip or something, you could load that into your hand and snap it, and then just drop it, and then the thumb goes on the floor, and you go, "That's never happened before." And like it's an actual thumb tip. And then the beauty of it is you can just put the thumb back on your thumb tip and go, "Oh, that's good." And then you've got an actually like amazing effect. Like you genuinely look like you have severed your own thumb off. But yeah, no, it's amazing how these things happen. Because I'll tell you a similar story. So I always used to use, when I was doing a mind reading bit for like a confabulation thing, I'd always use a Labco pad. So Soren at Labco, if you don't know who they are, what they do, they're amazing. I don't use any electronics anymore because I sort of always felt nervous about using them. Just they don't fail, but I just think they will. And I also think there's other methods you can use. So what I would do is I'd have this Labco pad, and you write on it, and it transmits to my phone, right? And it tells me what they've written on the pad, right? It's amazing. What I didn't realize was in certain situations, certain gigs, certain bigger functions, the radio mics or the sound system will steal all of the signal. So you can't, like in the dressing room, it worked, but on the stage, it didn't work, right? So I always had an out, and my out was always, I'd have a brown envelope, and inside the envelope was a thumb tip, and there was another piece of envelope folded up. So if someone felt inside, if I stole the thumb out, they'd feel what they thought was their drawing or their picture. So this thing hasn't worked, right? So I said, no problem, take off the piece of paper, and I want you to fold it up. And I've got an envelope here. We're going to put the piece of paper in the envelope, and I put it in, but I put it in the thumb tip. Now I'd steal it out the thumb tip. And I'd say you can feel that in there, and what they can actually feel is another bit of brown envelope. Because later I'm going to rip up the envelope and throw it on the floor. They're not going to notice there's one extra piece. And I'd say to them, well, can you lick the envelope and seal it shut? And they lick it, and then I'll do the gag. It normally takes 15 minutes for LSD to kick in. Be hilarious. Then I go to my case and get some tape out. But while I'm getting the tape, I flick off the thumb tip with their writing in it. Then I seal the note with the tape, because I don't want them to open it. Because if they do open it again, they'll see their thing's not in there. And then I'd say to them, we're going to come back to you at the end of the show. Don't lose that, or you get smacked, or whatever I'm going to say. They disappear. Throughout the rest of the show, you do what you're going to do. You unfold the bit when you're doing another trick. You unfold the bit. You read what they've written down. You fold up, put it back in the thumb tip, right? Then when they come back on stage, you do your reveal. This is what I think you've gone for. Can I have a look? And when you put your pen away, you get your thumb tip back on. You rip open the envelope. You then put the thumb back in, pull the bit of paper out, put the thumb back on, rip it up, throw it away. So you end clean. And that's what I did as an out. And then the next day I thought, why am I bothering with the pad? Why am I bothering with the electronics? Do you know what I mean? So from then on, I just did that. And that was the day that I decided I didn't really need, or I don't like there are some incredible props. And like there was Craig Filicetti does a great thing, dice. It's amazing. The way you can tell the number that's on the dice, which is brilliant. And I've used that. That's never failed, but it will one day. The battery in it will go, and and I'm just waiting for the day that happens. But I used to do a colour match on stage. So for people who don't know what that is, you've got a drawing, and it's pens in a pot, and you've got 5 or 6 people, and you're blindfolded, and they choose a colour, and then you get them to colour in the picture, and it matches your prediction, whatever that may be. And there's a very clever method you can use with electronics in the pens and chips and whatever. And that's the way I was going to do it. And then I was going to do it with Henry when we did it in the Magic Circle. We realised that I could actually stand on the stage. But he could actually poke me with a chopstick and no one would see. So we basically made black art chopsticks. So basically, because the curtain was black, we got some chopsticks, stuck them all together, coloured them in black. And then when someone picked up the red pen, he just stabbed me once with the chopstick because he can see the pen. And I go, one. And then I'd know. But the beauty of it, I'm like in the middle of the stage and he's stabbing me with this black art chopstick. And that made me really laugh, doing that at the Magic Circle. And then we realised we didn't even need a chopstick because I was so close to the wings. He just told me. So he just go, red, Exactly. Agreed. And I could just hear him, and they were so far away they couldn't hear me. And we were using, and I was also using a blindfold I could see through, just in, I like it out, right? But yeah, so that was I really, really do appreciate like how clever electronics are and whatnot, and especially when they're hidden in things. So like for example, with the Mindbuster pad or whatever. I remember I was doing a show in Norway, and when I got to the reception, this is about 10 years ago. No, maybe not. Maybe 10 years ago actually. I got to reception, and they said, "Oh, can you just sign your name on this form?" And they turned the screen around, and it was a Bluetooth pen. That was like 10 years ago. So it's only a matter of time before everyone's aware of it. So I just thought, oh, John. We're all going back to pencils and billet switches, mate.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. It's the way it looks so much fair, and it's raw and it's organic and it looks natural and there's no suspicion. I saw he doesn't perform Magic anymore, but this is probably why. But the MC had the same iPad, so he had it all loaded up to get So the idea was the iPad would be down. He'd look down, he'd see the 5 drawings in a cycle that he'd know what was what. The MC walked off and introduced the act. The act came on, picked up the wrong iPad. MC walked off with the wrong iPad. Looked down and all they could see was Q notes for the MC.
Yeah, brilliant.
Did you draw?
Have you seen the guys who are using the prediction chest in Portugal or somewhere? So they've got this chest hanging from the thing. Who does this podcast go out to? Is it just magicians?
Yeah, very much magicians. Yeah,
no lay people.
No.
Really.
Okay, fine. Well, I'll say, so basically, if anyone knows how prediction chess works, you've got this box hanging from the ceiling, and inside is a prediction of how the show's going to go. And when you load it down, you bring it down, you put it on the table, you open it up, you get it out, and you reveal the show. Anyway, the guys have gone to do it, and they've opened the thing, and they haven't put the thing in the table. So basically, they've opened this box, and there's nothing in it. Like, there's nothing in it. So then they've lifted the box up, and the table's gone away, and someone from the audience gone, "Oh, you can use my table," and the guy's gone, "No." And they hang it up again, and then later the guy comes back out with the thing and puts it on. I was just like, "Oh, mate, it's I remember when the first Mindbuster pads came out, it wasn't like Bluetooth. It was like designated signal from the device to the receiver. And mine broke one day, and then Soren told me how you could change the frequency. So if they default to, let's say, frequency number 1. So if I'm doing a gig with you and we both got one on frequency 1, whatever I draw, you'll see, and I'll see yours, and vice versa. Just everything becomes a mess. So anyway, I was doing a gig with a mate of mine. Later, I said, "Oh, you're using the Mindbuster today?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, I won't then." But I'd learned how to find out what frequency other people were on. So I turned on my receiver, and I could see he was on signal number 4, right? So I've gone, "Yeah, no, I won't use that. No problem at all." Anyway, he goes up to a group of people, and he says, "Oh, can you draw a picture?" And I've got the receiver, and I can see she's drawn a house, right? And then I've got my pad, and I've just scribbled out the house, and I've drawn a rude picture instead, right? I won't say what it was. And he's looking at his jacket and gone, "Ah, right." Anyway, so he says to her, "It's a very well." She keeps the piece of paper, and it's a house, right? And she's got it again. And he goes, "Right, you drew a picture." She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But you changed your mind, didn't you?" And she goes, "Well, I did actually, yeah." And he goes, "I think you're a naughty one, aren't you?" And she goes, "Not really." And he goes, "Right, on 3, you say what you've drawn, I'll say what I think you've drawn, and we'll see." And on 3, 1, 2, 3, she said house. He said something that was obscene because that's what I drawn on his pad. And to this day, he doesn't know it was me. He might watch this now. I know, but it was me.
That's such a good thing. I saved up so I want to get an electronic, so I bought the Inception gimmick from Pro Mystic.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so Craig's amazing. Pro Mystic, amazing.
Yeah, I got to use it once before lockdown and COVID, and I probably won't be able to touch someone again for another few years. So
yeah, well, this is the other thing we've got to look at. So things will change, and I mean, like come April, May, or whatever time they're saying it, things will go back to normal again. It'll take a little while. That's all, and it's like because we've got another tour coming up as well, and it's just like so much of what I do, I need to get. I just like people being in close proximity. Do you know what I mean? It's just like standing there and like the whole, rigmarole of, right, there's a pen in a box and I won't touch it, but you take the pen out and then, there's some hand gel and you do fine. But I'd rather just not do shows. I'd rather just do online stuff and then I'll wait until we can go back to having fun again. Because it's like, I like doing close up and I like doing tricks for children, like, seeing their faces, like, it's amazing. Like if you're a kid going to a magic show and you're like made the star, that's what I always wanted. Do you know what I mean? But as a kid, that's what I'd love. So I'm not saying anyone wants that, but they're going to get it.
Definitely. We've gone for an hour and 15 minutes now, so it's that wrapping up. And do you have anything you want to promote, or you're doing virtual shows and stuff if anybody?
Oh yeah. So the virtual thing we've done, they're mainly just like corporate things that we're doing at the minute. But there's got another tour coming out. next year. So it's me and it's called Illusion Impossible, and we're meant to start now. I think in September. It's been rescheduled a few times, but I think we've got about 40 odd dates booked in the UK. I think Dublin we're coming to in September, I think, and then there's plans to take it across Europe. So yeah, Dublin, if memory serves, I think it's the 17th of September. And the reason I know that is that I got asked to do a show on the 18th of September, and we've got a show for this tour 16th, 17th, and 19th. We haven't got one for the 18th. So in between the 3 touring shows, I'm going to go to Grimsby or somewhere and do a corporate. No rest of the weekend. But it's so it's myself and 4 other incredible acts, and it's sort of like the Illusionist. So it's like everyone specialises in different genre, and the way I'm selling it is some of the greatest magicians on the planet and Jamie Raven. So yeah, come along.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
Highly recommend that. And if anybody wants to find us, they can go on to deceivereality.com, and we got some new products up there now as well. We got a few of the shadow wallets by D. Christopher in the 1914. They're selling.
Sorry, if I may just say there, with the bank night thing, if you are interested, anyone, I don't know if we've actually got any at the minute, because I know we're getting some more printed, but Paul deals with that. So it's if you look him up on Facebook, it's Paul Martin Magic, or on his website, Paul Martin. It's called Yours, Mine, and the Mystery. And then anyone who's interested in the tour, it's Illusion Impossible. I think it's .com. It might be .co.uk, but just Google it.
Definitely. Highly recommend that as well. So thanks,
Brilliant.
everyone.
Thanks.
We'll be back again next week. Thank you, Jamie.